I always used to focus on kind of braking as late as I could, still making the apex in a controlled fashion. But turn 9, if you start doing that through turn 9 and 10, it's just so easy to start locking your inside front, missing the apex, running wide. We've seen that a little bit this week. But it's because you're coming through that sweeping left. There's bumps in there as well, where Logan Sargent hit yesterday and went for a spin. It's a really tricky one. You also can't attack the brakes in that corner because you're braking and turning and the inside front is unloaded. So you've got to just squeeze the brake pedal like you're driving a saloon car or a road car, rather than what you're used to and what Carlos Sainz will do in a few seconds' time down at turn 1, where you mash it.
On the C4s, these are the red ones. This will be your time, Jolyon.
I have been waiting a long time.
It's all yours.
Let's see what he can do then. Building it up through the C3s. Now this should be the best rear grip Carlos has felt so far, and you can see that there straight away. Able to turn it through turn 1, hug the right-hand side to get the smooth run. Through 2, up through 3. Fighting the car on the turn-in for turn 4. The front looks good on the Ferrari. The rear still causing him concern, but the grip is giving him reward. 0.2 quicker than his own best.
Fastest sector one so far of the day.
Getting really wide out there on the curb on the entry to turn 9, which I haven't really seen before. Be interesting to see what the C4 tyre does through this final sector coming up, because this is actually softer than the race tyre that they'll be using next week, so it's more explore about this tyre for later in the season. Still giving him reward at the moment, even with the higher temperatures. Able to find a good amount, flat out through turn 12. And you can just see the car's it's more alive, isn't it? The grip level's up. He's having to make smaller adjustments at the steering wheel. It's still a little bit nervous on the front on some of the turn-ins. The traction, you're always going to be limited, because the more grip you have, the more you squeeze it on quicker. And that is exactly what you see out of the final corner. But the whole car's just coming together on the C4 tyre.
And that is easily the quickest time of testing so far.
About time we had a soft tyre on a front car.
It is about time. I mean, Carlos did say the car is feeling lively over one lap, and actually, overall, it's less wind sensitive, more predictable, and more drivable.
So I think this Ferrari, it looks like it should be quite a fast car. The way that it's got a very direct front end. We saw with, Hamilton was on the medium tyre, Norris on the medium as well, but the front end on this car just looks a little bit sharper. Both drivers having to make small corrections on some of the entries to the corners. That's also how Charles Leclerc has constantly been saying he wants to drive, with the car right on the nose a little bit. It's probably more favouring his style than Carlos is in theory, but Carlos still getting a great lap out of it just there. Really clean and right on the edge of grip. And I just think it looks quick over one lap. The question is that going to then give them trouble over multiple laps? Because you've got the sharper front, which is putting more stress on the rear tyres, and a circuit like this is very rear limited.
What did you prefer? Which did you prefer in your car when you were driving?
Oversteer or understeer was the perfect neutral balance.
Well, no, I mean, in terms of, we hear a lot about a driver's driving style and what Max prefers compared to Sergio for the way he drives. The ideal car for you was more pointy?
When I was driving, I never thought about it. I think drivers have their styles, and you always want to have a car you don't want to be fighting oversteer, and you don't want to be really fighting understeer, but your natural style will be kinder for an oversteery car and understeery car. So a driver like Max, he can deal with a really oversteery car because he's got such sensitivity in his controls. His steering inputs are so smooth that he can have a car that naturally, for many other drivers, would be oversteering horribly. But because Max is so smooth, he brings that naturally oversteery car towards a neutral balance, if you like. And there are other drivers, someone like Lewis is typically good on the brakes, will carry a bit of brake into the corner, he can deal with a bit more understeer because his style can be more aggressive on the way in to provoke the car to turn. But they both are heading towards what would be a neutral car, so they don't go to the debriefs and say, I need some oversteer, guys. I want to have oversteer in the car. They are still treading the knife edge of oversteer or understeer for their driving style. And I think that was the same for me. I always wanted to start with a stable rear end. I think that the worst thing for drivers generally is to be unsure if the rear end's going to swap sides on you. So probably the long answer is an understeer 1 out of 5.
Okay.
But then you're complaining that it's too much understeer. Otherwise, you can go quicker.
Yeah, I think we just saw Jack Doohan there. Actually, he's going trackside for us tomorrow, so we'll hear from him out on track. But I think it was Will was saying that Alex Albon was talking on a podcast about how Max likes a car, and he said if you imagine turning the sensitivity up in a game to the maximum, and I was imagining, I guess if you turn the sensitivity up to a mouse on a computer, and you know when you just literally touch it and it flies across the screen, that's how Max likes his car.
You've got all the analogies today. The orthodontist earlier on. Now we're on IT. I like it. It's brilliant.
It's it helps me understand what that feeling is like for you, or what a.
You've nailed it with that. I don't know how many people are playing around with their mouse sensitivity, but if you are at home and you're aware of what it's like when you're having a very sensitive mouse, then that is exactly the analogy. You've got to be so precise with your inputs. If you can make small adjustments, and it goes a long way. But it's very easy to just overcook it. And that is the natural driving style of Max versus Checo at Red Bull. Max is so sensitive to the field. And even as a former driver, I can't exactly tell you how and why. That's the innate skill, I think, of him, to be able to feel that level of detail. And it's also a lot of your driving style comes through how you've been brought up, your CV in cars. He did a lot of karting. Maybe a lot of his feel came from being sat in a go-kart from a very early age, like a lot of them did, but how you're feeling the cart or car move around you.
Do you think it almost helped him missing out a couple of steps, if you like, before he got into F1? Do you think that helped him because he carried that sensitivity through rather than dialing it out at all for any other formula? Or not?
It's tricky to know. When I got into Formula One, I'd come through an unusual route, and I had driven pretty much always high-powered, lower downforce cars. A Formula 3 car, which Max was the only car that he drove for a full season before he did Formula 1, is the opposite of that. It's lower-powered with loads of downforce. And you start to pick up traits, especially for him in his first year of cars, you pick up traits based on a Formula 3 car, and then you've got to adapt, and a great skill of all drivers is to be adaptable and make the most of whatever you've got, because as we see, cars can change year to year. But sometimes your inherent driving style comes from that. And I always used to be more of a V-shaper, a V-shaped driver. So I'd brake, as I said before, brake as late as I could, stop the car at the apex, be in control, and then get on the gas as quickly as I could, and probably lose a bit of apex speed compared to some of the other drivers who were more the U-shaper, which is not giving it everything necessarily on the brakes, but carrying the speed through the apex of the corners. And that's when I was teammates with K-Mag. He would be a little bit more like that, and we'd both come through that school of thought, obviously growing up, and that was just my inherent style. And then the year after, I had a direct comparison with Nico Hulkenberg, who was the opposite, and I couldn't work out how he was carrying such speed through the apexes of the corners. And I think a lot of it comes down to just how you sort of grow up through karting or getting into cars, and the teams that you're with and the styles that they want to kind of propel you to as well. Because Max was 16 when he came into cars. He's obviously got a father that raced and would be giving him a lot of tips, I'm sure, the whole way through. But you've got to learn somehow. Even the best drivers, they've got to learn their skills, and you're learning to not a Formula 1 car at that point. You're learning to an F3 car or a Formula Renault car, Formula 4 car, whatever it is.
Carlos Sainz then, quickest overall for the entire test, but certainly quickest overall today with a 1:36.86. Max was a 1:31.344 yesterday. But as you say, track coming to the drivers now. Temperature as well, air temperature and track temperature, as the air temperature is now 22 degrees, track temperature 31 degrees. But as I said before, we are some 2 3/4 hours ahead of when they will be qualifying next week. And so it is going to get a lot cooler. We will see later on today how they fare in those conditions.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of those soft tyres that Sainz has run. A lot of teams have bought them. Only 2 teams haven't bought at least a set of C4s for this
McLaren
week.
and Alpine, yes.
Yeah, so we're not going to see it from Norris as a direct comparison, but we will at some point see it from everyone else apart from McLaren and Alpine. Alpine so far get their cards really close to their chest, and McLaren showing a little bit more. Sergio Perez, has he got an issue with his car?
I don't know, he's got Flowbiz on, hasn't he? But
this looks like he's really slowing to it. Yeah, he's coming to a halt. He was doing a very slow outlap.
Space? There's no one behind him, so he's not letting anyone by.
He's looking down at the steering wheel a lot as well. So he's looking down and...
Can't see any lights on that steering wheel, but that maybe it'd just be the screen. Oh no, there are lights on the lamp. There's no gears. It's not telling him what gear he's in. Yeah, unless it's a very dark screen.
The engine's still running. He was on a steady outlap as it was, but came through turn 13 and immediately pulled off the racing line. And you don't want to be doing this if you're about to be heading into a flying lap, being so far off the racing line, picking up a little bit of sand on the tyres, looking around, and then looking back at the dash. So I wonder if they're trying to advise him on the radio about something he can do to resolve this issue.
Or at least get back under his own steam.
Well, yeah, that's the important thing as well. Save a lot of time if you can get back into the pits rather than being recovered from out in the desert. He's at least down to the final corner. It's a nice downhill run here as well.
Coast all the way back into the pit lane from here.
Don't know if he'll have enough momentum. Scrub a bit through the right-hander.
There's a lot of gravel on those tyres now.
Yeah, so you don't want to be starting a lap. You can get offline to let people through, but you want to get back onto that racing line. That is just the pickup from going offline onto a bit of track that no one else has been. I think that's doing that dash has gone dead, hasn't it?
It has, hasn't it? It's not just my eyesight. So he's making his way back in. Esteban Ocon, the only other driver out on track at the moment. You were talking about those C4 tyres, Jolie, and Ferrari have actually got 6 sets for this test. The most alongside RB. They've also got 6 sets of the red-walled C4s. So they have plenty to play with, so maybe that's why they stuck them on first and showed us what they have so far this afternoon. He has got back in. He went to the garage, you'd imagine, from there.
Yeah, he used the downhill nicely, because I don't think he had any drive for a very long time there. I wonder if that could be something as simple as a steering wheel issue. Oh, he's got the dash on there, so he's back in neutral. Oh, I think either the sun was in a bad place and reflecting or we couldn't see it, was darkening the dash.
Maybe we just had a bad angle.
Or it came back on as he came back in there. So thankfully for Red Bull, he's managed to get it back and they can wheel him in and check what's going on. You're right, the flow viz on the right of the car suggested they were out to gather a little bit more learning on the airflow around that side pod area.
See if you can see what happened, or listen. It's been sounded like that since he left the pits. It didn't sound good. The dash, I guess, is just a very dark dash.
Yeah, you couldn't see it already coming through turn 11. So that didn't sound good on the back of the car, did it? So power unit issue could be quite a long change there for Perez. He certainly had, well, if it was like that when he left the pits, then he's managed to drive around at some point and find a bit of drive, go through some gears, and then it's stopped completely. And he got on the radio immediately as he came through that left-hander at turn 11, and maybe the team instructed him to stay off the right pedal and just coast it home if he possibly could.
So Carlos out on the C4 tyres again. Norris and Esteban Ocon. But while we see Carlos on track right now, I believe Will Buxton has a special guest with him who might possibly be a teammate of Carlos Sainz's right now, Will.
He is indeed, Charles Leclerc. A slightly early end to your morning session. Any warning at all that there was anything out there? We talked to Carlos earlier, and he said he'd seen it from trackside and had actually tried to warn the marshals to put a yellow flag out, but it was too late.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like this. At the end, it wasn't huge. There was a bit of a hole in the floor, which we had to change. But apart from that, no, I had no warning. I saw something, but honestly, it was so thin that I thought it was a plastic thing. And we see sometimes some of them around the track, and we just go on them, and nothing is happening. But this time, obviously, it was metal, so it hurted the car a little bit more.
Yeah, I bet. Up to then, a very promising morning. You topped the morning times. Carlos has just gone top this afternoon as well. It feels like a very positive day for Ferrari from the outside. How does it feel from the inside of the team?
It feels like every winter test, which means that we don't understand a thing, because for now it's too early to say. We have no idea what are the fuel levels of everybody else. In terms of drivability, the car is a lot better compared to last year. Last year after the test, it was very, very difficult to push into a direction because we just didn't know what the car was doing. We will get into a corner and we didn't know whether we will have extreme oversteer or extreme understeer, which was a big problem. This year, the car is not like that, which is a better starting point. However, my initial feeling is that Red Bull, unfortunately, remains quite a bit ahead, and yesterday they've done very impressive lap times. But this is only my own feeling, not looking at datas, because again, datas doesn't mean much for now.
Tyre life was obviously an issue for you guys last year. Do you feel the changes to the car for this year have helped to eradicate at least an element of that?
I think the drivability is going to help us on the long runs. So I think that for tyre degradation, for race runs overall, I think we should be in a better place.
Good news. I know we don't have you for long, so it's testing, so we need to talk about the important things. You have an EP out with Sophia and Pama, the Dreamers. How did that all come about?
Oh, very, very quickly, actually. I mean, the winter break is very, very long for us. I've done a lot of training, a lot of days at the factory in Manilo, and I had a 1.5 day free during that off time, and I went in Paris to see him. He's a good friend of mine, and we sat down and we were initially going to do one song, and at the end we came up with 4 songs. So
in a day and a half.
In a day and a half.
That's impressive.
Yeah. It was, but it was a very good experience. I love it because I mean I've always loved music, and until now I've always been quite limited, obviously, with my technique at the piano. But I'm a very creative person, and this time all my creativity could work, as I had an amazing pianist with me in Sofiane. So it was a very good moment, and these are the kind of moments that helps me disconnect from racing, which is needed sometimes.
And throwing massively ahead to the future, but you have a new teammate next year. Can we expect an album, a duet between you and Lewis? That's what everybody wants to know.
Well, if it's what everybody wants to know, then I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know. I haven't spoken about music too much with Lewis yet. We discussed about it last year, and he was telling me that he loves music, and I don't know. I'll speak with him from next year onwards about a potential collaboration.
Lovely. It's a great EP. It's beautiful stuff, mate. Much success with it.
Thank you very much.
I so thought you were going to say, well, if everyone wants it, we're going to have to do it.
Do you know, that's made me think, what would you want Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc to duet on if there was a song that they duetted on together? I know Charles plays the piano, but if they were to do a duet, what song would it be?
Everybody Hurts by R.E.M.
Oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that.
Hopefully they won't be.
No, I was going to say, yeah.
Perez is back on track in the Red Bull. Hopefully is not Everybody Hurts for the Ferrari team and the Mercedes team. Or the Ferrari
They will
duo
be Ferrari,
next year.
yeah. They will be Ferrari teammates together from 2025.
Do you have a song in mind?
I'm trying to think of duets. I can't think of many duets. I suddenly, into my head came Islands in the Stream, and I've no idea why. So I need to think of something much better than that for the two of them, as we see a replay of Sergio Perez going out again. Now, was this the lap where he had the problem, or is this... He is out, so this is him going out after going back into the garage, I think.
Yeah, so this is the one before. This is the replay of the full lap. Yeah, to it.
It's already not sounding right.
It is, but they've managed to send him back out again already, so it's no major issue. It's an electrical issue that they've managed to fix. We'll have to work on our duet recommendations for the musician teammates of 2025.
People on social media will get in touch very quickly.
There'll be some genius ideas.
Yeah, I await those with bated breath, actually. They did actually. I have quite a few responses. We were talking earlier on about the Mercedes seat moving 10 centimetres back. Lewis wanted to sit further back, get a better feel of the car, and I was commenting that actually the Ferrari seat is quite far forward. And I have been sent some confirmation of that the Ferrari seat is quite far forward. Which is something he'll have to contend with next year.
It's not as far forward as Mercedes were last year. So Mercedes were on an extreme, which Lewis was extremely unhappy with, and they've moved back. Ferrari have also moved back slightly, but they're further ahead than
they are further forward than the Mercedes now. Yes.
I don't see that being. I know Lewis is very vocal about it last year. I think it's subtle changes. I think he'll be okay. Maybe they'll be playing We Are the Champions. Maybe it'll go the other way round. They'll be knocking out some
You're trying to dig yourself out of a hole, aren't you, there?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Well, that's not a duet, but I'll give you that. You can have We Are the Champions. For the time being, until we get some better options, which I'm sure are going to come through thick and fast. Somebody's already sent in, I got you, babe. Right, OK, let's have a look. This is the Sergio back on track. The Red Bull looks like it's in much better state than it was on his previous run. Only the C3 tyres on at the moment, so it's unlikely to beat Carlos Sainz's 1:30.4.
Yeah, Checo's not had too many looks at lower fuel so far today in the Red Bull, and 2 seconds adrift suggests he's a fair way away from that right now as well. Jumps to 8th place for the day.
Quickest so far is the man looking for a seat for 2025 at the moment. But as are half the grid, as we were mentioning before, Jolien, that the contracts run out, so it's going to be a busy old season in terms of movements around the paddock. This is another look at Carlos's lap.
So he improved on that initial lap. Again on the C4, looking good.
Like a nice, neat lap, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's been dialing it in through a few runs on the C3, jumps onto the C4. This is second lap on that tyre, and you'd hope it would be a nice, neat lap, I think, on this tyre at this time, but he's executing it well.
And as he finishes that, watching on in the commentary box with us, Alex Albon's joined us. Alex, thank you very much for coming up to have a look. What did you make of the end of that lap, at least, that you saw?
It's good. It's a nice lap. I'm surprised by it. It seems like the Red Bulls and the Ferraris, they're not really affected by wind, it looks like. They just seem to turn where they want to turn, and they have rear grip where everyone else is struggling. But it is a very nice lap, I have to say.
You've given up the game within 10 seconds, Alex.
I don't want to disappoint or bore any on-viewers, but they look quick. May I expose you guys a bit?
Oh, go on. What are you going to expose?
It smells like champagne in here.
I'll take that. I thought as soon as you said it smells like, I thought, oh no, don't expose us like this. No. Champagne.
I'll take champagne. It's definitely not me. I've not been anywhere near champagne.
Okay. Well, it smells, doesn't it? It does smell. You guys are clearly having a better time than everyone else here.
We're smelling expensive, Jolien.
Look, champagne. We got champagne problems.
Okay, good.
Do you have champagne problems in your car? Is your straight line speed as quick as it was last year?
I don't think it will be. I think we will have a bit more of a, I don't want to say that a normal racing car, but I think our balance windows and our speed will very much merge to the kind of the norm in the grid. So I still think, that being said, Monza and tracks like that will be good for us, but we should be much better at tracks like here or whatever. But time will tell. I've only done 40 laps, so not that exciting.
Yeah, not too achy today then, sadly.
No. Well, Logan's always planned, obviously, to be driving today. He had a little hiccup, but luckily the kind of red flag was also there, so we kind of didn't lose much time at all. But we do need laps because the car is so different for us this year. We just need to get used to it more than anything else.
How's it different? When you say it's so different, how is it different?
Well, kinematically, so the way that the feeling of the front of the car is totally different. It's totally new, totally redesigned. So the feedback you get in your hands is totally different. We've got a Mercedes rear end in the car now, so that's very different. We've got a totally different balance setup philosophy. So there's loads of things going on, and it all feels like it's going in the right direction. But it's strange. I've spent 2 years now developing or driving a car that has certain characteristics, unique characteristics, and now that kind of all goes in the bin, and I'm learning again. So interesting.
What do you mean when you say the feeling when you're driving through your hands, the feedback you're getting is different? How does that come about?
I'm sure the engineers are better at explaining it than I am, but a lot of it's down to, for example, the caster, and most teams don't, it's actually banned now, this kind of controlling ride height with steering angle and all this kind of stuff. But there's ways that you can get the car to feel and do things, let's say. And we've changed quite a lot around that. The power steering, as a result, has had to change quite a lot as well. Just little things like that.
Front end geometry, largely. And did that feel quite weird then when you leave the pit lane for the first time?
It does. It feels like, so most cars, they do carry a characteristic. I'm sure you know, Jolene. Every year, yes, regulations can change and whatnot. The cars can have more downforce or little subtleties, but they always carry a DNA, a very strong DNA, and you only really feel like that changes when you change team. That's at least the way it felt for me. This feels like I've changed team, but I'm actually obviously still at Williams.
So you've got the whole day in the car tomorrow?
Yes.
Is that correct? So then,
I believe so.
So then, what's your mindset going into tomorrow then? You've got an awful lot to learn. This is, as you say, you've got more to learn than maybe some other teams have tomorrow.
I think so. I think every team has a lot to learn. I think there's an element for us of also just getting the most out of it driving-wise, because I think when there is a difference, also just as a driver, to get the most out of the car, you do need to understand where's its operating window and what driving style and how do you change your driving to help and facilitate the new cars. So there's going to be an element of that going on, and there's just setup things too. So for example, like now Logan has been quite busy doing a lot of your kind of sweeps, we call them, just loads of different things, but very routine things which aren't actually to improve setup or the balance of the car, but it's more just to gather information. And so when we have been mileage limited, we haven't had the chance to spend that much time on actually setting up the car. So hopefully tomorrow we'll have a bit smoother running and we can do that.
How dialed in are you to what he's been saying all day today then, trying to gain as much knowledge as you can on a day you're not driving?
Exactly. I've been pulled over here. Otherwise,
into our champagne-smelling commentary box.
Unbelievable. But otherwise, yes, been listening a lot to what Logan has to say. Obviously, just speaking to him as well when he gets out the car, and we're in this together, obviously, as a team. So we are very open at Williams, and we're just trying to get the car into a window as close as possible. We shared the same feedback. So yesterday we had very similar feedback, which always helps. Can be a bit trickier when drivers are saying different things, but we know where the areas we need to improve are.
So if you're saying that this car is so different to last year, I mean, you had that battle with AlphaTauri last year, as they are now,
yes.
RBs. Where do you feel you are in that battle? Because we thought they were carrying some pace. We thought everyone had closed up. But do you feel you've maybe gone a step back at all, or?
When we say RB, are we talking about
AlphaTauri's was Yuki and Daniel.
Yuki and Daniel.
Yeah, we'll call them Yuki and Daniel.
They've made a step. I think they've definitely gathered some parts, and they look very, very, very quick. So I think they've made a big step, which is just the way it is. But we're there. We're not far away, I don't think.
How do you feel about talking us around Logan's lap?
Okay, he's on a race run right now. I can say high-ish fuel towards the topper end, and a lot of this is a corner we've been struggling on so far this weekend.
You're not alone.
A lot of people are struggling there.
Yeah.
Good
Looks
to
like
know.
towards the exit. Yeah.
A lot of track limits I've been seeing, which obviously won't be a thing or won't be tolerated over the race weekend. And then the same thing here, a lot of tailwind in this corner. This whole sequence from turn 4 to turn 8 has to be some of the most frustrating corners on the calendar when it's a tailwind. You basically got oversteer in 4, understeer in 6, oversteer in 7, understeer in 8. So you are spinning plates with setup because you can't really fix one without making other worse. And then that's kind of it. I mean, Logan's just doing his thing.
Yeah, he's been off the track a couple of times. It's like he's been understeering wide on. I watched him down at turn 11 earlier on. Just nothing major, but slithering off the road, struggling for a bit of balance overall. Is there a particular area that you need to work on?
We do. Well, I think it started from last year. If I go all the way back there, this was one of the tracks we really didn't enjoy. A lot of front locking, that turn 9, turn 10, which I'm sure you've seen a lot of people lock up on. That was a big problem area for us last year. We seem to be very good at that corner now, so that's a tick in the checkbox. That doesn't sound right. Tick on the list.
Tick off the list.
Tick off the list.
Tick off the list.
Off the list.
Yeah.
But saying that, we are still struggling with a little bit of just rear compliance and rear traction. So that's been our main area so far this weekend. And as I said, it just seems like the top teams seem to just not really look like they have any wind. They've turned the wind map off, which is nice.
Because this is what you guys as scientists are about to smash in another top time here. He's already 8/10 clear, and he is lighting it up on this flyer. One more corner down towards. A lot of the teams are taking a lot of curb as well, which I want to ask you about, because I saw Logan earlier not using so much, and it didn't look like you guys were quite as able to abuse as Carlos has done. But I saw Sergio Perez earlier, absolutely almost 4 wheels off the track into turn 11 doing that.
I saw that, yeah, I did too. Part of it's confidence, part of it is just ride height windows, and for example, these, especially the Ferrari, it always seems like they can be quite drivable over curbs. I think they have quite a large window where they can have their downforce working well, so they can run the car a bit softer just because it's allowed to move around a little bit more. And then as a consequence, you're good on the curbs and you're able to open up the track a little bit more. This track's quite unique where you can really start to open up the track if you have a softer car. And that's what you see with other people.
Does it feel bumpier this year?
I find it bumpier. I don't know if they've changed anything. I haven't done a track walk. Maybe I should.
Maybe before the race.
You're getting sloppy.
But turn 2 exit curb has been very, very tricky. Everywhere else, it's just the customary GT that tend to make it bumpy for us. So all the braking points, especially through here, I think you saw Logan yesterday. He bottomed out quite heavily into this corner.
Right, watch Checo coming up to this one. Is he on a push lap? Looks like he's leaning in. Anyway, leaning on it, up through the gears, going around another car here. Look how far he's going to go off. He went further the other lap.
I think Max yesterday was almost track limits on it.
They're going to have to introduce track limits, aren't they, on the entry to turn 11? It's getting preposterous.
It's impressive. It's also down to stability, because obviously when it's all fun using all the track on entry, but if your car's already quite light on the rear, there's a tailwind coming into turn 11, and when you brake and turn in at the same time, if you're on the curb and you don't have the stability to turn in aggressively, then it's actually no point to drive on that curb. It's better off just being on the tarmac where it's a bit smoother, and then you've got a little bit more compliance on the rear to turn in.
being able to commit fully to attacking the corner rather than having to hold back but having a more open corner.
Exactly. F1's a bit weird to me. I find that the entries in a Formula 1 car are the most important part of the corner. If you can commit on entries, that's where a lot of the lap time is. So if you're using a bit less track or a bit more track, but you can commit properly into the corner, you actually tend to be a bit quicker.
So is this lap record around here, race lap record, going to go this weekend, Alex? I mean, qualifying pole last year was a 1:29.7. I mean, Carlos is not
1:29.7.
1:29.7 for pole last year, so Carlos is not far off that already. But the actual lap record during the race is a 1:31.447. Do you think that's going to go this next weekend?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna already hypothesize what's going to happen.
Go for it.
Max is going to have a 25-second gap lead. He's going to go for a pit stop
At the end of the race.
at the end of the race, and he's going to go for his fastest lap at the end.
And break the record.
And break the lap record
get the
at the same
fastest
time.
lap, get the lap record, and just be in the bar, whatever, by the time we're all finishing, everyone else.
Well, you guys
Either the bar or the bar.
I don't know, one of the two.
Or here, clearly there's the champagne over here.
Up in commentary, commentating on the end of the race. Is that what you're saying? For everyone else?
Well, clearly you guys have been celebrating earlier than everyone else.
Yes, we got sent us a crate of champagne by Red Bull already. Yeah, that's what's happened. No, it's not the case. It's absolutely
Where is
not
it?
what was happening.
Where is it?
We don't have any champagne.
Where is the glass?
It's all before we joined
There's
the
Alex
commentary
Jakes'
box.
old black coffee down here. I wonder if that's got
Maybe
anything
is
to do
that
with
just
it.
oozing some aromas.
Is that what it is? Okay.
I don't think it can be us.
He's not convinced, Jamie.
I'm not at all.
He's wondering how on earth we get through 3 days of testing, and he thinks it's through with champagne.
When you sit in here for 2 hours at a time, you just get used to the smells. I'm really sorry,
I
Alex.
thought you said the time flew by. Anyway. Listen, it's been great to talk to you. Obviously, you know, your hopes for the season, there's a lot going on. As we've said before, with half the grid almost out of contract at the end of this season, I know you're committed a bit longer, but there's a lot going on right now. Is that a distraction for everybody?
No, it's not. I mean, that's